Right, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Just a quick bit of news today. We've got some information about Universal's Dark Universe, the universe of all monsters and mayhem and all of that. We've long known that this has been floundering for some time. We had Dracula Untold, which was due to be, kicking this whole thing off. They then scrapped those plans due to the reception that the film got. A lot of people like it. I'm not poo-pooing the film. It just didn't do as well as they wanted. So then they scrapped the plans. They then pushed ahead with The Mummy, which would have been another reboot of this attempted shared universe of dark universal monsters and all of that. And now they've kind of cut that to one side again because The Mummy was absolutely panned. In fact, I even did a video on it. I'll try and leave it linked above. I hated that film, almost walked out of it. They even got the name of the Egyptian god of death wrong. That's how pathetic that film was. And then they pushed all that to one side, and now they're kind of going ahead with something else because we've got the Invisible Man trailer, which I'll leave linked above. So this has long been gestating, kind of ruminating, just floundering around. And part of what they were going to be doing with The Mummy was this: the Bride of Frankenstein. So they weren't going to go Frankenstein first; they were going to go the Bride of Frankenstein because reasons. And it had a director, it had a story, everything. Now, on a recent Collider podcast interview, the director of said Bride of Frankenstein movie actually claimed that the studio itself had cold feet. Basically just saying, look, this is why The Mummy was not particularly great, was not received very well, and the studio just went, no, you can't do it. We're just going to pull everything back. We're not going to do anything anymore. So let's take a look. I would leave it linked and all of that, but it's a fairly long piece, and the excerpt is very, very small, so I'm not going to bother. If you want, just head on over to Collider yourself. But obviously, as a bit of background, back in 2017, Universal Pictures revealed that The Mummy was set to kick off their Dark Universe, which hilariously, they were so banking on this that they even created a brand new Universal logo for it, the Dark Universe. They had photos of everyone that would be a part of this Dark Universe. Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man. So much nonsense. They ran before they could walk. And it's such a shame as well because it could do well, but they shat the bed. Now, obviously, this would have been a Universal Monsters reboot films with the next film in the series slated to be a Bride of Frankenstein movie. Now, the director was Bill Condon, and he recently noted that he thinks the studio got cold feet after The Mummy's financial and critical disappointments, resulting in the abandonment of the endeavour. After The Mummy failed to make an impact with audiences, Bride of Frankenstein earned a series of delays before the studio confirmed that the project had been delayed indefinitely. Basically, it was done. It was absolutely done. It was gone. And it is currently unclear of any iteration of the project will be moving forward in the near future. Although I will say that some of these comments suggest that it may do. Again, we'll kind of get into that in a second. Now, he states, and I quote, "That was a heartbreaker, really. We were involved, we were prepping, we were deep into it." Condon recently revealed to Collider, "I have to say, the simplest way to say it is that I think The Mummy, and not to say anything against the movie, the fact that that hadn't worked for them, and that was the beginning of this whole reinvention of their monsters, getting cold feet at the end of the day. David Cope was writing the script, and I thought that it was unbelievably good, and we were on the verge of making a very beautiful movie. I thought, so that was a shame." And it is a shame, but then, look, again, just to kind of recap again, given how different the 1999 The Mummy was from the original 1932 movie, the 2017 The Mummy had a difficult time blending the horror roots with action-adventure spirit of the previous remake. It wasn't just that, ladies and gents. They let Tom Cruise have, free reign on that film. So it's no surprise it was trash. You don't get an actor. He was making a lot of the decisions on that film. That's what has come out with rumours. And as a result of it, it absolutely bombed. And it was just so boring as well. It was so dull. So obviously he was then pressed. So he says, when asked if he was allowed to reveal any details about his approach to the classic story, Condon admitted, "I don't know if I am, honestly, because David, I think, is still involved in figuring out the new approach." So it's either that they are going to be pushing ahead with this movie in some form or another, or they're still trying to keep the approach that they were taking with other things. So if he reveals the tone of this, then it... Well, I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me, to be perfectly honest. Because even if you reveal tonality behind something and the approach, it wouldn't change another movie. So a bit surprising, but you know, never mind. I think, to be fair, that's probably what Universal was thinking at the time to the filmmaker shed, that ultimately the movie that we started was devised as a great big movie, and at the end of the day, probably these movies should be smaller. Yeah, and that's why now you see Blumhouse taking a lot of the kind of, well, it's a shared risk, isn't it, between Universal and Blumhouse on this more horror-based movies of these dark monster films, whatever you want to call them. So it's interesting. I don't think that Invisible Man trailer looks particularly great at all. And this is not a movie that was ever really going to happen after The Mummy. The Mummy bombed. It was never going to be progressing forward. So there you go. It's a quick bit of news. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. If you are new here, make sure you do hit subscribe. You can stay up to date on the world of pop culture and movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. Also, guys, for returning subscribers, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you turn the bell notifications on. And as well, please check out my limited edition Space Jasper merch. Link down below at my Teespring account. Thanks so much for watching, though, guys. Have a mistake. Take care.